What's going on, guys? K-Pine here, and welcome back. But most importantly, welcome to Season 19 of the GOBattleLeague, where in this video, I'll be showcasing battles featuring Heatran in the Open GreatLeague. Heatran was one of those Pokemon along with Giratina Origin where you got access to a level 15-1 through research. However, its CP was still too high, so you had to get lucky enough to get one through trading in hopes that its CP would roll under 1500. And I was lucky enough to get one of those. So while it's the beginning of the season, I decided to have some fun and run it. I think it goes without saying that this isn't a team for climbing, but I did have some really entertaining battles with it. And with that, let's get right into the battles. Alright, into the first battle, we lead Shadow Gligar into Shadow Magnezone. This is a pretty neutral matchup here, as we are reliant on landing the dig or baiting the Aerial Ace for this matchup. And even though Shadow Magnezone has access to Wild Charge, which is resisted, it still hits extremely hard. So I do go for the Aerial Ace bait. We do get it luckily. And now my opponent's at the back-to-back Wild Charges, or one off the back-to-back. And we will commit a shield on the first one, and we will let the second one go, and look how much damage that does. That's half of Gligar's HP. As they now swap it to their own Gligar, where I'm going to get a little bit of an Aerial Ace chip first, store another Aerial Ace, and then bring in my Dugong to farm down. The reason why I threw an Aerial Ace first instead of straight away coming in with Dugong to farm down is because if Shadow Gligar gets even a 1 wing attack advantage, it can survive to get off 2 digs and force switch or shield from a Dugong if the Dugong commits to the farm down. So that's why I threw that Ace first, so I could guarantee get the farm down in time before they would reach 2 digs. Back in comes the Magnezone. We're able to bait it with the Icy Wind, just not able to get to another move in time as my opponent is doing proper counting, takes out my Dugong, and now I bring in Heatran to get a farm down, and they have a Shadow Glade in the back. So we're going to go for one Fire Spin, then the Magnastorm, which lands, plus we're going to combo play with that Ace we stored earlier in the game, and that will be enough to take out the Shadow Glade. GG's to my opponent. Next battle, we lead Shadow Gligar into Alolan Sandslash. Terrible lead, so we're going to swap into our Dugong, and my opponent is staying in here, potentially trying to get some chip damage first before they dip on out. But that's perfectly fine because they played to the CMP tie, so we're able to let this Joe Run go and land this Joe Run back, which is very big for us, getting that shield or damage. We do get the shield. Then they bring in a Lantern, so it's a little bit interesting decision as to why they stayed in there first when they had a hard check to the Dugong to begin with. As we are able to land one Joran, my opponent potentially could get the farm down. Looks like they decide against it as they will go for the Surf to take out my Dugong. And this is pretty much best case scenario, as we are able to bait out the Lantern, and hopefully Heatran will be able to sweep in the back. So those double super effective Fire Spins would shred through that Alolan Sandslash. So hopefully this Water type is their only check to opposing Fire types, but we shall see. They'll go for the dig right there to take out the Lantern. I'm looking to instantly swap into my Heatran once they bring in that Alolan Sandslash, which they do. That Fire Spin does a lot of damage, but they have an Azumarill in the back. Unfortunately, this is just an RPS game. I have no chance of winning this. I am running Earth Power on my Heatran here. I did try and get Stone Edge onto it. I went through like 10 charge TMs just rotating between Flamethrower, Iron Head, and Earth Power until I ran out of charge TMs and had to settle with Earth Power. And it's the charge TM system's definitely a system that needs reworking. I know we've been asking for it for a while and it just hasn't come about. But it's definitely needed for situations like this. And in regards of Earth Power, honestly, while there were some situations where I wish I did have Stone Edge, Earth Power did come in handy a couple of times. So I can't really complain if Earth Power or Stone Edge is the better move. Would definitely be more situational based on your team composition. Next battle, Shadow Gligar into an Altaria. We are going to save swap into our Dugong, because we do have 2 better checks for it in the back, and that is one situation against an Altaria where I would wish I had Stone Edge on it. But honestly, it's such a polarizing matchup for the Heatran as it resists the Sky attacks and resists the Moonblast from the Altaria. that even Fire Spins and Magma Storms add up over time. But again, the Dugong safe swap is able to bait out the Lantern, which is very fortunate. Now we're going to wait out the clock a little bit, come in Gligar. We will take the first surf and fire off the dig on the CMP tied to their next surf, which does happen to be right away. I'm not able to overfarm any, but that's all right. Dig comes through, takes out the Lantern. We swap right into the Heatran, and they have a Skarmory, and this is looking to be a Heatran sweep. So I will load up here to bluff a potential Stone Edge, but honestly, I'm just going to be going straight Magma Storm either way. So regardless if they showed this or not, which they do. So it'll be nice right here to be able to take it out with a Stone Edge, right? But we don't have the Stone Edge, so we're going to continue to spam off these Magma Storms. And honestly, as I said, if you look at that, it's starting to do respectful damage to the Altaria. The Altaria does throw on alignment as well, giving us an extra Fire Spin, which is very fortunate. But I don't think it's going to make too much of a difference in this matchup, as we are able to overfarm, get to this Magma Storm to take out the Altaria. And now there is nothing stopping this Heatran from shredding through this Skarmory. One Fire Spin, then a Magma Storm. Look how much damage that does. We can throw 2 more Fire Spins, then we swap into our Gligar to try and catch the move, which we do get the catch. If we don't get the catch though, they're still forced to throw before we reach an Aerial Ace, of which if they do, we're still able to Fire Spin down. So swapping into the Gligar was a very safe play there. If you'll notice, my opponent was completely core broken by that Heatran there in that end game. GG's. Next battle, Shadow Gligar into Abomasnow. Terrible lead. We're going to swap into the Dugong with the hopes of getting it onto the Heatran. My opponent's going to stay in, build up to that potential energy ball, so I will respect it with the shield and go for an Icy Wind of my own. They end up making a very nice bait with their own Icy Wind, as it was the CMP tie to mine, and now because I'm debuffed, this is going to do very little damage to Abomasnow, and then they swap out and bring in, what do you know, another Lantern. Now, Lantern is one of those Pokemon that is going to be receiving a nerf this season. The amount of damage Spark does will be getting reduced, making it a clone to that of the move Sucker Punch. And this is a very welcome change, as Lantern has been dominant in the meta for way too long. Currently, the Spark damage has not been changed yet in the new season, just because there are some Play Pokemon tournaments going on this weekend. So once those tournaments are over, the changes will be implemented. And by the time this video will be releasing, it will be later in that same day where those changes will be implemented into the game. They bring back in the Abomasnow, and look at how much damage those Fire Spins are doing, shredding through the Aboma, takes them out, and they forfeit. You know, whatever they had in the back had to have been weak to the Heatran. My guess is it was a flyer of some sort, like a Skarmory and Altaria, and they just didn't want to face that Heatran anymore. GG's to my opponent. Next battle, Charjabug Lead. Fantastic lead, but we don't have a great answer to this Lickitung, so we're going to chip it with an Aerial Ace first, and then bring in the Heatran, so that way we can guarantee switch advantage. Now you may think that, hey, no, the Heatran matchup is great against Lickitung. We resist their body slams and resist their power whip, but look how much that lick damage is adding up over time. And I didn't want to have to give up a shield, so that's why I chipped with the Gligar first. And now they bring in a Swampert, and look at those mud shots absolutely tearing through Heatran. Those are double super effective mud shots. Mud shot's known for its energy gain and poor damage output, but that right there does not look like poor damage output, as they fully farm down my Heatran. Fortunately, we do have a Dugong to wall the Hydro Cannon energy, so they are forced to go for the Earthquake. And if we get the Earthquake call correct, which we do, we are in a very, very good spot here. As they swap into their Charjabug, I bring in my Gligar, and this is basically game over at this point, as they can go for the X-Scissor, and we can load up on more energy and fire off a Dig. This will do some respectable damage to the Charjabug. I go for a Dig here just because I know I can reach 2 Digs, where if they shielded the first Dig, I'd then be able to land the second. I wasn't quite sure if I'd be able to reach 3 Aces at the time. But as you'll see here, we go for the farm down. We just barely get it. And with the Charjabug out of the way, that Swampert will not be able to take care of the Dugong by itself, so they can see GG's. Next battle, we lead Shadow Gligar into Shadow Whiscash. Now this is a very interesting matchup as it's completely dependent on the Shadow Whiscash landing the Scald as well as getting a potential attack debuff. So I'm going to go for my Aerial Ace right away. I don't want them to drop my attack before I get some damage off. And since I do land the Aerial Ace, I'm okay letting the Scald go, knowing I will be able to survive it and reach another ace. But they Mud Bomb bait, and that is fantastic as they swap it into a Dugong and I meet it with my own Heatran. I don't have a good answer for the Dugong, so I bring in my Heatran, and Heatran double resists the Ice Shards and double resists the Icy Wind, but the Drill Run is double super effective. That will just completely take out my Heatran. So I am forced to give up a shield there. And here I get to the back-to-back Magma Storms, hoping I will be able to get there before they reach another Drill Run, but I'm just not able to, so I will give up a shield, commit to the farm down. We do get to the farm down, and back in comes the Whiscash. I go for this Fire Spit right away, just because the Whiscash is one move off their next Mud Bomb, so I wanted to guarantee a shield with that Magma Storm. They shield. I go, you know what? I'm one off the Earth Power, let me try for it, and they overfarm way too much and let me get to another Earth Power to force that second shield from them, where I could then combo play with my Gligar, and they have their own in the back. And with that Whiscash going down with all that energy, they decide to concede. GG's. Next battle, Wigglytuff Lead. Ideally, we want to be getting this onto the Heatran, as Heatran destroys the Wigglytuff. And what's common behind Wigglytuff leads are Bastiodon, Shadow Victory Bell, Annihilate. Those are common Pokemon you'll see behind a Wigglytuff lead. So I do want to preserve my Gligar just in case it is that Annihilate. So I will land an Aerial Ace, then get an Aerial Ace shielded, and save swap into my Dugong. A little bit of a surprise. They come in with a Whiscash here, which is not one of those three I just mentioned. One of those common three that you will see, I should say. And this is fantastic. We bit out the Whiscash. A Mud Bomb would take out a whole family of Heatran. So being able to neutralize the fish here is very fortunate for us. At this point, the Whiscash is double debuffed, so these Mud Bombs are going to be doing basically nothing to my Dugong as that one lands. And I see that I can take another one, so I'm going to tank it and farm all the way down. And we're going to see what my opponent wants to come back in with right here. Actually, I decided to store an Icy Wind and then swap it to my Gligar to get an energy head start. That makes sense too, so I could potentially reach another move against the Wiggly if it came back in. But they come in with their third, which is the Skarmory, and this match is just over. Because once that Whiscash is out of the way, they have no way of dealing with this Heatran. Sky Attack and Brave Bird are resisted, Steel Ring's resisted, Icy Wind is double resisted, Disarming Voice is resisted, Charm's resisted. This Heatran's just gonna shred through the remaining Pokemon of my opponent's line. Down goes the Wigglytuff, back in comes the Skarmory, Fire Spin, and then the Magma Storm does get their final shield. And now from here, there's nothing stopping this last Magma Storm from landing and taking out the Skarmory and securing the match. As the Magma Storm does just that. It has a really cool animation. I haven't mentioned that yet this video, but Magma Storm does have a really cool animation as we're able to take that one. GG's. Next battle, Shadow Dragonair Lead. We're going to fire off the Aerial Ace right away. Most Shadow Dragonair will shield this just because they love to 2-shield for switch. But I do have to check for that fighter in the back, so I'm going to go for the Aerial Ace, get that shield or damage, and then swap into my Dugong to check for that fighter. I actually end up staying in and firing off energy, which is perfect. This is exactly what I want. So that energy doesn't have to be thrown onto my Gligar or Heatran later for the form of a super effective Aqua Tail, allowing me to effectively no-shield it against my Dugong, and they bring in a Bastiodon. We are able to make 2 drill runs where the first one does land, second one will get their shield. And now from here, I'm just going to bring in my Gligar. I will commit a shield and make it to this dig. I'll let the first one go just because I know I can survive it and make it to another dig. But they will outpace me to a second one where I will have to give up my shield if I want to keep all this energy, which I do. Because Smackdowns do add up to Heatran over time. They're neutral, super effective against its fire typing, resisted against its steel typing, so they are neutral. They come in with the Dragonair. We get the fire spin down, and they have a superior in the back, again walling all of its energy, so they concede. GG's. Next battle, Shadow Gligar Lead. We load up on energy. I overfarm here, look for the catch. They end up firing their Aerial Ace right away, and because they fire their Aerial Ace right away, what I should have done here instead, I do go for my own Aerial Ace. What I should do here instead is, instead of overfarming when I get to my second Aerial Ace and giving up a shield, I should swap in my Dugong to catch that Aerial Ace, so I could waste that energy, not have to give up a shield, and I also get to check for that potential fighter that they have behind it. But they bring in a Azumarill in a simultaneous swap. And that is kind of best case scenario, as this is exactly where we want to see the Azu on the team. First drill run will land. They will land a Play Rough in return. I'm going to fire off another drill run. Fire off the drill run on the CMP tied to their next Play Rough. They let it go, we will let it go as well. And I will be able to reach another drill run before they reach another move. I fire off this drill run on what would be the CMP tie to their Ice Beam, in case they went for the Ice Beam. But they ended up committing a shield, and they're not going to get the farm down in time. They're going to have to throw a move, and they don't, and allow me to reach another drill run. And that's massive, because I get to land that damage. I make a combo play with my Gligar into their Azu, and they make a very nice read there. Be able to store that energy for later. I was hoping I could land that Aerial Ace and force them to have to give up their second shield to keep all that energy. And now they bring in a Bastiodon. And this matchup is looking tough, but winnable. It is looking winnable. So Dig does get the shield, and now Heatran comes in. We do get to land this Earth Power, and this Earth Power won't quite one-shot it, but will do quite a bit of damage to the Basti. So they're loading up. They are at 100 energy right here. My switch clock's not quite up yet. I will have to give up a shield to this. And here I predict that they're going to combo play with their Azu because their switch timer was back up. So I swap into my Dugong to predicting that combo play to catch the Azu energy. But they just stay in with the Bastiodon, and that allows them to get to another move in time, or they can then bring in their Azu. So it was I had to make a call there, and unfortunately I made the wrong one. But my opponent played it well, as they were able to take it. GG's. Next battle, Shadow Gligar into Bastiodon. Pretty good lead for us, as it does take 2 digs to take out the Basti. I'm going to fire off this dig after 10 wing attacks. Make sure to do it on good timing. Dig will get a shield from my opponent. And now they're firing off a move of their own, and I will give up a shield in return just because I want this Bastiodon off the field. I don't want the Bastiodon potentially end up on the Dugong at some point later in the match. So we just want to get rid of this Bastiodon at all costs. Second dig does land. Now we're firing off the third dig. See if my opponent wants to preserve the Basti at all. They don't. They let the Basti go. So here I'm going to save swap into my Dugong, expecting that Shadow Vic behind it. I'm not quite sure what the third would be. Another Razor Leafer, a Wigglytuff, and Annihilate. It has the potential to be any of those 3. So I do swap into my Dugong so I can keep my Shadow Gligar around in case it is the Annihilate, which it is. So we're able to bait out the Annihilate, and this game's just over at this point. Once my opponent pivoted out of that matchup with their Shadow Vic, that Shadow Vic's going to end up onto my Heatran, and my Gligar is going to be able to take care of this Annihilate. As down goes the Annihilate, and now there's nothing stopping my Heatran from just fire spinning down this Victory Bell. They will reach a move, but whatever they throw, Leaf Blade, Sludge Bomb, Acid Spray, it's all going to be double resisted as the fire spin does KO. And it feels great just being able to destroy a toxic team like that with Heatran. GG's to my opponent. Some final thoughts on Heatran? It's just not great in the current Open GreatLeague. The meta is completely overrun with water types and mud boys, which destroy it. So while it does have some good matchups like Wigglytuff, Altaria, Skarmory, grass types, it's just way too alignment dependent to really have success. However, I do believe it can have a lot of success in future limited metas. One of those being the Fantasy Cup. where only Dragon, Fairy, and Steel types are allowed. So we'll have to wait and see for when that comes around later this season, but I think it can be a real threat there. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate you. If you enjoyed it, please drop a like, subscribe, and comment down below. I'd love to hear what you have to say. And with that, I'll catch you in the next one.